Hey guys, it's Penelope in London, and I'm with Michaela. We're doing our regular moon update, and we've got a new moon in Taurus coming up. So, Michaela, hi.
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 And we're going to go to the next slide. And we're going to say here that what's going on is the new moon in Taurus is at 21 degrees and it's on May the 11th. It's California time, 11:59 a.m., New York, 14:59 p.m., and UK, 19:59 p.m. And we got a nice picture of a bull there because this is Taurus.
Fellow, isn't he?
Yeah, beautiful. It's incredible what the beauty on planet Earth, actually, that we don't, that we take for granted. I think there's just so much beauty around us. So this is the chart we're going to be looking at, but I'm going to skip forward and look at the aspects first, and we'll pop back to this one. Is that okay, Michaela?
Great.
Yeah. So if we look here, these are the aspects that are going on. So you can always stop the screen if you want to do that, or go to astro /seek, astro /seek.com, and you can be able to see the chart yourself. Was there anything specific here? Well, look on the chart. The moon moves very quickly, but we can see that what the moon is up to. It's square Jupiter, square Saturn, and sextile Neptune, which you picked up on with me just a while ago, Michaela.
That's the nearest transit, yeah.
And then the moon trine Pluto. And then I like to look at the Lilith, which we'll go into, and the nodes, because the node is conjunct Mercury, trine Saturn, and the node is also sextile Chiron, which is our healing working through. The Lilith, I love, true Lilith conjunct the sun, and Lilith conjunct the moon because it's a new moon, and Lilith sextile Neptune, which we picked up on as well, and Lilith trine to Pluto. And we've got the Chiron sextile Mercury, so that's our communication and the wound. And then Chiron is square to Mars, which is moving on in, and Chiron sextile Saturn. So let's go here. We got a moon there. We'll also look at is there anything around the financial stuff on this that we probably see on that chart? We'll have a look at as well.
Well, I haven't looked into the financial chart this week. We did a bit on that last time, but I mean, there is a lot going on behind the scenes, isn't it? It's like new moon, you don't always see that something could be going on, and you don't see it, particularly with that sextile to Neptune, and with the black moon, the true node black moon there, and then also got the asteroid black moon in sextile, and it's conjunct Neptune. So it makes you think there are goings on behind that we will see the result of eventually, but right now we're not. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of activity going on there.
Yeah, you can see there. So we can see that trine to Lilith up there, can't we? Or is that is a trine up here to?
Yeah, so it's like the big the big companies and the governments and everything trying to feather their own nest. You think there's shenanigans going on, definitely.
There are definitely, and we've got a few inconjuncts here as well with Mars. Actually, looking at that, it's inconjunct, isn't it? Or is that is an inconjunct to?
Yes.
An inconjunct is something that we can't see because it's a bit of an angle there.
That's what they call it as well. Yeah.
But when we look at the Taurus keywords for what does Taurus mean, and also you'd want to look in your chart where that would be. But then we have self-sufficiency, security. It's where we can be isolated. I've been experiencing some isolation myself, but I've done well with it. I've done okay with it so far for a year. We've got withdrawal, stagnation. It's also where we can have poverty, where we want to give up and suppress our emotions, shut down, where we can be stubborn and hoarding. And it's, the body and the pleasure, survival, fertility, procreation, preservation, and itself as a resource, and inner resources and values, beauty. And it can be prostitution as well. I think, humanity, as we go through life, we prostitute ourselves in various ways. It's an odd word, but it's got heavy scorpionic attachment to that word. But we can see how that plays out in life sometimes. It's where we're literal, materialistic. It's our possessions, the landowner, the farmer, the thief, the carpenter, and the shepherd. What I think I would do is that the other slide I wanted to show, and we'll go over to solar fire. We've got here I liked this picture because the idea that we're all going to be starting to think that we're going to be traveling again, and getting overexcited about that, and wondering what that's going to throw up with certain the health issues around the health issue that we're dealing with around with what's the word, with without saying it, that we're dealing with with the health of humanity at this time as well, Michaela.
Exactly. I mean, it's pushing it, isn't it? Trying to say we're going to have things back to normal and go on holiday.
Back to party time.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. How can we do that when part of the world is suffering so much? It's like we're wanting to tune it out, aren't we? We're wanting to go into a certain amount of denial again. And that sort of speaks about this Neptune, the sextile to Neptune. We want to go into escapism. And
exactly.
Escape from this. Well, you can't escape from it. If you go somewhere else in the world, you're going to get a bit reminded of it. Even if you go to a so-called green country, or it's different. It's ridiculous, isn't it? We're traffic lights now. We're green, amber, and red.
I know, and the reality is it is still the unknown. So when we take, and we've got the eclipses coming up. That was the other thing I wanted to touch on. That we have Saturn's going to station on May the 23rd.
Yeah, exactly.
We've got the full moon on the which is the eclipse on the 26th.
And on the 29th, Mercury, doesn't it go?
That's right. Yeah.
Oh God.
So and then if people are going to start thinking, well, I'm going traveling and I'm going to start booking tickets, and then we've got this 3 weeks of the retrograde, which will take place in the sign of Gemini. I think we're getting a bit over, well, not myself, but there is a bit of overexcitement, I think, and that's going on.
Exactly. It seems like, again, probably too much too soon. Yeah, wanting to push it back to normal instead of just take one step at a time, and play it by ear and take some caution. Caution is advised by Taurus, of course, because it's a cautious sign, as you
it is, and it's stubborn, and it also it doesn't want to let go, does it? It wants to hold on.
It wants, to the status quo, and at the moment, the status quo, it wants to be careful, it wants to be cautious. So if we go against that, and want to go into this escapism, the sextile Neptune, as we were saying, conjunct the black moon, asteroid black moon, then we're going to be going against the grain, really. We really need to follow, what the chart is saying, take one step at a time, be cautious. But, unfortunately, that stuff in Gemini, the Mercury in Gemini and the Venus in Gemini, and it doesn't want to do that. It wants to sort of, and Jupiter is still in Aquarius. It's in the last degree of Aquarius, which is a very strong degree, the Antarctic degree.
Yes, absolutely, because it's changing into Pisces, and then it will be going
and then it'll be slipping into Pisces. Well, it'll be slipping to Pisces, won't it? When is the exact date?
I will show you here as well. You see this, I mean, when we look at this right now, we've got that Chiron, which is our wound, and the self, the self in Aries, it is that we need to pioneer our, and work out our own psyche and heal, because it is the psyche that suffers the pain. This is the with the anxiety and whatever's going on in the world,
and the nodes are transiting that, of course.
The nodes are transiting
the Chiron.
Yes. Hang on.
Yeah. The south node is trine, and the north node is sextile.
Okay, that's interesting. So I didn't see that. And then we've got that square to Mars here.
Yeah, exactly. The square to Mars. Wow. Yeah, and that's almost exact, isn't it? So yes. So and that's about the time. I mean, I think Jupiter goes into Pisces. Is it tomorrow? Is it?
Let's have a look. We'll push it forward. So we're going to go by days, and we're going to look at Jupiter up here, 2945 in Aqua, and then it's 1 day, 2, 3. Right. So then it's in on the 14th of May.
Right. Oh wow. Yeah.
And that's
the time. Yeah, you've had the Mars go over the square to Chiron. So the reality of that, sort of starting to kick in, isn't it? That there are problems underneath. You don't get too carried away, because, and it's also showing that sort of the as we were saying, the insecurity, the wanting to be secure, Mars in Cancer, but then squaring Chiron, not feeling secure.
Yes, and the touchiness with that.
Yeah,
Mars, you know,
it's in water, isn't it? And yeah, it's ruled by the moon, so it's fluctuating. Mars isn't very happy in Cancer because it is ruled by the moon, and because it fluctuates, and Mars wants to just do what Mars wants to do. But Cancer, it can be like dragging through water, you know, and especially that square to Chiron, it feels quite frustrated.
And that Venus in Gemini is sensory stimuli, communicating ideas, relaying knowledge, and the teaching, writing, spontaneous learning, but also applying what is learned, grounding, speaking about or conveying knowledge. And it's also fun. So Venus in Gemini wants to flirt, wants the fun, you know, as well.
Yeah, exactly. But there's that heaviness going on.
And it's funny because that Venus is on my sun today, and I do feel like I want to flirt a bit. I do. I'll have to find somebody to flirt with.
Yeah. Flirt with the planets.
Absolutely. Flirt with something that's good for me for a change.
Exactly. I was going to say that Mars too is going into the quincunx of Saturn. And as you just said, Saturn is going to go retrograde. So they're sort of going towards each other. They will be when Saturn goes retrograde.
Wow, yeah, it's quincunx.
Yeah. So I don't know when they sort of pass.
Do you want me to go forward?
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to go. Everybody watching this, we're at the 14th of May now, and we're going to go forward. This is the 15th. Still at 13, Mars.
Yeah, that's when they passed. Yeah.
And then it will go. If we keep going forward, we've got the 20th of May, 21st, which is my birthday. And then we have, this is the 22nd, but if we go forward to the 28th, 29th, we've got that Mercury, which is stationed then. Yeah. And it's gone over the North Node, and then it's going to go back.
Yes.
Let's look at this. Mercury. It would have gone, so yeah, Mercury's gone over, but it's going to go back over. It's going to go back over the North Node. It's got to work something out.
Sure. And that's Saturn going backwards too. And I think that's retrograde until October, isn't it? I think it goes direct just after Pluto. So it means, you know, we've sort of got the Saturn Uranus square going on, and the Pluto's stuff hasn't given up either. So it's like, you know, let's not get carried away here. Let's take precautions, because it's not going to go straight.
And that's what I'm thinking, that from just my gut instinct is that, you know, that if people just get too, you know, overexcited, that there's going to be huge disappointments.
Yeah, sure. It's so that there has to be caution urged, not rush it. I mean, you know, so. I was going to point out the Sabian symbols too, which were really.
I'd love that. Should I take it back to? I'm going to take it back to today, which is the 10th, and the 11th. It's the 10th today, but this is the 11th, the chart of the. So yeah, I'd love to hear about the Sabian symbols. I think that's a brilliant thing to bring up.
Yeah. So the new moon at 21 Taurus, and as I was just saying to you, Penelope, because it's in the lower, it's 2117.
Yeah.
2130, which would be going to, and after 2130 would be going towards 22. Then it's relevant to look at the degree of the lower degree, which is 21.
Yes.
So instead of normally you would, after it goes past 30, you would look at the degree after, which is
okay.
20. So 21 Taurus is it's a finger pointing in an open book, which is interesting, and so it is written. And it talks about the moving finger writes, and having writ moves on. And that's Omar Khayyam, by the way.
Okay, I like that. I can get that, because that would be going over maybe some information. A moving finger in a book. Yes.
And then what wrote, I can't remember the exact quote. It's very famous, Omar Khayyam. He was a Christian actually, but he was in Islam, but he was a Christian, and he was about 500 odd, I think he lived.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. So but he's a wonderful poet, And he actually, he talked about wine all the time, which is appropriate for the sextile to Neptune. But he ends it's called the, oh God, what's it called? Something, yeah, I forgot what it's called. It's called a certain name, this book. But he wrote about the moving finger moving, and then it moves on, and after having written, you can't remove a word of it. So it's like, you have to accept that that's it. It's,
Well, it's very true. It's like we can't,
time has written, and so, but we do, don't we? We mull over things constantly about memory, and could it have been that way? Could it have been this way? Wish it had been that way? And we're wanting to recapture some things and forget other things.
Yeah.
And memories just, they command our lives.
They do, an implicit memory, the control implicit memory has, and how, it's only with the work of Jung that, that really got me, and, also coming into contact with you, like making the unconscious conscious can really save us so much time and bring us out of that Neptunian sort of, not being, not really living in this world, instead of just living in our heads, and,
Exactly. But it is so hard, isn't it? What he was so right about the unconscious, that it does sort of, it's like the Neptunian Pisces thing, which is here, the sextile conjunct Lilith. It's like it actually pulls you back towards the past all the time. It's like we're always sort of fighting to stay in the present.
Well, it is incredible that true black moon is in sextile as well to asteroid Lilith, because the true, ultimately, we have the asteroid, which is the idea of the Garden of Eden, Lilith, and then we have the true, which is the resolution, the fear, the shadow. The shadow also is not, it's the repressed parts, the good parts of us. So the shadow, it took me a long time to understand that with the work of Jung. The shadow is not some parts of ourselves that we don't like, or there's something wrong with us. It's the part that we've denied,
that we reject. Yeah.
So that can be the good parts that we've rejected as well, due to, being societal beliefs, or, the system where we don't really do what we love. I mean, how many of us end up, I don't mean end up, but, I spent 30 years in a business that was, really, whilst it was a bridge, it wasn't really who I was. And there was a lot of pain in that.
Yeah, we deny part of ourselves, and then also we can project it onto someone else.
The pain.
The pain, but also project the good things about ourselves onto someone else. Oh, they're gifted, or they're deserving of good fortune, or the good parts projected. So we can, not only can we project the things that
well, I think this in society, when I see, which I find quite disturbing, where people are given accolades or put on the like the guru status, and the reality of who they really are is not seen. And we're seeing today in the news, without mentioning any names, that there's a lot of farce in society, where people may be seen to be doing one thing that looks like philanthropy, if that's the right word. And on the other hand, with no names, doing something that's not so squeaky clean. And, us humans have more than one side to us, and only we can resolve those bits within ourselves, and, not get to some pure status, but the acceptance that, there are no saviors. And I think we really need to, with this Pluto in Aquarius, if we've all chosen to be here, is to get to the point where we are working together, and we haven't got something that's overly centralized, which doesn't take into account the humanity of people.
Yeah, I mean, it should be simple, shouldn't it? But unfortunately, humanity seems to make everything so complicated, which was what Jung was saying. It's like we don't, and we deny so much. We deny our shadow. We deny, and we are in denial, and we get deluded, which is that Neptune thing again. And we don't, it's like we miss reality. It's like when you look back into memory, sometimes the good thing about memory is you can, and that's when you do the shadow work, and memories will start to come up, and you will see a memory and you'll think, oh my God, I see something now, and I didn't see it then, but suddenly the memory has been thrown out of the deep, and suddenly I get something I didn't get before, which is the remarkable thing about it. And that's when you do the work, as he was saying, that starts to happen, and then you work creatively with it. It's when you deny it and you try to push it back into the unconscious, Pisces.
Which is the alcohol. It is in part, not the idea of alcohol. I'm not judging that, but I know for me it was a night, you know, for me and trauma, it was a nightmare because it was complete disassociation. People do it with all sorts of different things. But I think as well that we've got the opportunity that once we get to a point, and it's not that it softens, but we understand what's going on with the fight, flight, freeze responses, or the fawning or being codependent, that we get to a point where we can become self-sufficient, but not excluding others. I don't know where I'm going with this exactly. I do, but I'm just trying to work this out, not to jump around too much, but I do.
Go on.
I do think that we've also, where we have suffered pain, in that acknowledgement, we can also get to a point where we can understand that the brain is malleable. And as you brought up with me, hypnosis, to soften things that can't quite be changed, to somehow, you know, but the brain is malleable, that the suffering at some point we have to take it in hand at some point.
Yes, and to actually guide our unconscious, and something like hypnosis is very useful for that, to guide our unconscious to see a positive perspective on something, when maybe our unconscious was holding something inside that it can only see as negative, and we can actually help it to change that perspective, and that will just it shed light on our whole lives.
And I get that Taurus with the North Node, you know, where for instance, with the business, you know, I knew that it wasn't wanted, it wasn't, you know, but I held on to it.
Yes.
You know, and that stubbornness of, you know, but the freedom when the rubber band snapped, the psyche went boom, and then. So in a way, with the Pluto that as that moves, and we have choices, you know, we don't have complete free will, but we have free will how we decide to cross the road. You know, we have free will we put into our body, and you know, or the substance, where we get that from, instead of thinking we want all the shiny, glittery, the Taurian. Maybe
we don't realize actually we might have done a number on ourselves, or others, we've allowed others, or others have done, you know,
or allowed others to do a number on us, because we're, you know,
perspective, parental perspective, peer perspective, even our own perspective. We've got hold of something that was erroneous, that was a deluded belief, and we've carried it and it takes something to jolt us out of that sometimes.
And that is the shadow work, isn't it, as well?
And so that's what Jung was trying to say so brilliantly. Exactly. And
that Jupiter will, you know, it will go back into, so that it will, I've all told you, Saturn will go back to 6, so we can go forward with this just out of interest, and we can watch also. Let's go weeks. So we can see that Jupiter will go into Pisces, but then eventually it will go back into the sign. It will go into the sign of, hang on a sec, it will go into Pisces, and then it will go back into Aquarius, and that's Jupiter, and then Saturn will go back to 6 degrees. And then we'll just see what goes ahead. Let's go weeks ahead.
So that square with the Uranus continues, you know, and it's continuing all year, isn't it?
Yeah, all year.
So yes, and that is the major square this year. And so that's a push me pull you sort of transit. It's like, yes, we want to go forward, but then we find we're held back, and then, you know, the Uranus part of us wants to be done with this. Let's rebel against it, and let's protest, and let's change it. But then there's the Saturn that keeps pulling us back again.
What's interesting,
like you said, you know,
this is Algol here, which is the head of Medusa,
Yes.
And if we look, we've got that 29th degree going on, and it's squaring to the Lilith, the true Lilith as well. We're definitely trying to resolve something, which I think the feminine, but not just the feminine, you know, I'm not too woo-woo about such things, like the feminine of, you know, the nurturing the feminine, that's, you know, the depth of being feminine, like being mature and proper. And this is what true Lilith is. It's, you know, it really is in part maturing, looking at the shadow and getting to maturity. That's how I see it as well.
And these are very deep that, and you know, there's the you know, the Black Lives Matter and the racial problems and religious problems and
the sexual abuse problems, the, you know, the trafficking problems.
My God, I mean, there's so many problems now. We're you know, this is what we're bombarded now. We are really bombarded, and it's because of the, you know, media, and that we're now bombarded with all these problems, and we almost don't want to look, but we actually can't avoid being affected by them to a certain extent. And that's, it's all coming out of the depths of the unconscious for our attention, but then it is the timing that it's right to do that. And so we have to remember that this is, and that's why, you know, you were saying we resist, you know, we go into denial and or dissociation, and
because it's pain, isn't it? It's like, I know
pain, but there comes a time when it is, and sometimes that can be a good thing, because the unconscious is protecting us, and maybe even just till the time is right.
Yeah, because otherwise we'd implode or explode. So, and we see this happen.
Yeah, we might have to change it. You know, changing perspective doesn't always happen overnight. It's a process, and it can be a long process, and certainly in the collective. So this is a long, you know, this is a marathon, you know, it's not a sprint. And so this changing of perspective is a, you know, it's a long, slow progress, but it is progressing, and it seems to go back and forward, but it's not. It actually is going forward.
That's the thing we can forget. And I find when we think we've slipped up, like as human beings, in whatever it is, you know, the simple things, like, you know, we might decide that we're not going to have sugar, and then we go and buy a cake, you know, but we've done a month without sugar, for instance, and we need to learn not to bash ourselves up and do the balancing of, like, actually I am taking steps forward. It's like getting rid of that inner critic and working with ourselves, you know, to keep moving forward.
Pisces and Neptune as well, the compassion as well. That's the positive side of it.
Yeah.
And just to finish that about the Sabian symbol. So interesting that the Taurus at Neptune, Taurus.
I think you dropped off there on sound, just to touch.
Yeah, it's Taurus at 21 degrees. So that actually says that what we were just saying. So about giving the situation the attention it merits and deducing its full implications. Researching and discovering whatever it is you wish to know, for it is available somewhere. Your sense of precision and enduring meaning that guides and enriches your own life and the lives of others. So that's very appropriate, isn't it? And so keeping focused on the guiding principles and moving onwards rather than lingering too long over an experience because it was good or bad. Learning to move on one step at a time. Keep moving.
That's nice.
Yeah. So, but interestingly, Taurus 22, which is where the Black Moon Lilith is.
Yeah, here we're back on that chart now. You see there?
Yeah, next to the new moon. And that's a white dove over troubled waters, which is kind of nice. So, and that talks about, you know, whatever ails you or has been like a shadow cast over you from the past is now being healed or lifted, or at the very least is in a position to be so. So keep focused on that. That's really good, isn't it?
That's lovely. Yeah. And that does make sense. I do find actually you know, looking at them, you know, even on my own chart, those Sabian symbols, how they really fit.
Yeah, they do. And they give you a profound insight very often that really hits home to the heart of something.
And I agreed, like what you said. I think even so, to read either side is probably, you know, helpful as well.
Yes, particularly if it's nearer, as I say, if it's nearer the lower degree, then go with that mostly. And if it's nearer but also we were saying, if it's retrograde, then it's obviously it's going toward where it's moving towards, that's what the degree to look at.
That's interesting. I'm going to look at mine later on that. So is there anything else about this chart you want to bring up before we?
I don't know. I
mean, that Venus, you know, that Venus has just moved into Gemini. So literally the last couple of days.
It's a bit lighter to it. You know, it's a bit of a, you know, at least it's all about information. So it is also saying, you know, have patience, but do your homework, you know, get the information and also communicate, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's about communication. So keep the lines open, communicate, don't bottle things up, you know, keep it.
And it's so easy to, because we, you know, we can sit and we can think what other people are thinking.
I know.
When we do that, we think, oh, what, maybe they're thinking this, or maybe, and I've been doing it myself, and then, you know, to snap out of that and just.
That's where we have to question our thoughts, because it's like we can assume something and you realize then you've just assumed it. It actually wasn't based on fact, and you might be assuming something completely wrong.
I think for a lot of us, this can come from, you know, the sort of the underhand side of authority when as we grew up, that we're afraid. It's very odd, you know, that how much fear is around, you know, being able to express. And also that, you know, we can express in ways that are not hurtful to other people as well. You know, there can be a balance found between each other as human beings. But again,
it's learning mindfulness, which is, you know, which is part of the whole thing that Jung was talking about as well. You know, actually questioning our beliefs, taking our time, maybe be patient, communicate, but also choose your words carefully at times when you might have got the wrong idea, or someone else might have got the wrong idea. So you also realize that you have to be clear that someone else might have got the wrong end of the stick, so to speak, of what you or your intentions were, or what you were meaning. So you actually do have to learn to be clear with that. And that's Gemini. So it's communication, but it's also realizing all of this underneath the communication, which is, you know, going on the Neptune stuff and the unconscious stuff, it's always going on. It's a process that's happening all the time. So these misunderstandings or misperceptions can happen all the time. So from ourselves, from others, and it all has an impact on our world. So we have to be mindful of that, but not paranoid about it, but certainly mindful, and keep questioning our thoughts and trying to balance all the time.
Absolutely. I mean, if you look, this is the chart right now, and this is UK time, but that is 10:10. You know, we've got the North Node on Mercury right now.
Yeah, right on there. So what we're saying is like,
and Mars here, look at 10. So we've got that
communication, but also be aware of the perceptions behind the communication, that, and make yourself very clear. And also, you know, if you feel that someone else is misunderstanding you, don't be afraid to say and use your intuition. I mean, that's that Neptune in Pisces too, to actually use your intuition and combine it with, and that's the left brain, right brain thing, isn't it?
And that in conjunction to the South Node to Mars, and it looks like the moon as well. Yeah, it would be.
Yes, exactly. And that's in conjunct, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's very beautiful work, I think. And, you know, the biggest take that I've got on astrology lately is the ultimate of it is through the symbolism from the, you know, the beginning of time, that we basically, what we're constantly doing as human beings is making the unconscious conscious. And as we do that, then life can evolve in ways that, you know, could be quite beautiful. Exactly. Really.
Willing to learn and open our minds, because we can tend to think we know everything, and we know what the past meant, and we know what the present is, and we know what the future is going to be, and that's not true. That's a delusion.
We don't know. And this is, you know, I see this with the whole of what's gone on over the last year with lockdowns and what, we just don't know what the future is. We don't know right now what the answer is to the problems that we've been having.
We do know that the more conscious we can be, the more we can make it a positive future, no matter how many problems seem to be, you know, we're now becoming aware of, that we didn't even know existed in the world. It's our perception. It's how we consider them that is the turning point. And if we can see it constructively and think, okay, we can find a solution to this, and trust that we'll find one. You know,
generally, I found that in life, that somehow that there are solutions, and I've seen myself over the years where, you know, I will bring it in because it might be worthwhile somebody hearing it. And I decided through alcohol and trauma that I was using for years when I was younger, that I'm 9 years without it. So I don't advocate any AA or any of that stuff. That's just my throw on things. But I do, you know, see how much healthier I've become as a human being, as releasing that codependency, dependency on something else to cut out that pain.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Sit with sadness.
Your strong intellect pulled you out of that. It pulled you out of the emotions that were too heavy and pulling you down. It's like drowning, isn't it, when you're that emotional and you're pulled down by the past and haunted by bad memories. But then the haunting also is the unconscious has to keep throwing those memories out for you to grasp them. And it's like grasping, when you finally grasp them, it's like with your mind, then it's like grasping a life, a life preserver.
Yeah.
So yes, you've got it now, and then you hold on to that. And
we can't be healthy without, when we're filled up with toxicity. And I think in a way that the C thing, the COVID thing, is basically the beauty of that is that it's almost a symbolism of our, collective toxicity that's been spat out in order to be dealt with, so that we can then come to a new conclusion of how we're going to be living.
Exactly. And that's what we were just saying, about the new moon in Taurus, sextiling Neptune and Black Moon. It's odd, isn't it? Black Moon, asteroid Black Moon is conjunct Neptune in Pisces, and then you've got true node Black Moon conjunct the new moon, which is it's exceptional, isn't it? So that's really saying this about the snake. What we were saying, it gives you that thought about toxicity of poison, but also it's the healing,
and it sheds. What does it say?
Snake is the symbol of healing, and it's also the symbol of poison. And sometimes you have to take the poison in order to get towards the healing. A little bit of poison can be healing.
Yeah. I mean, there's no doubt that, through my experiences, and I know I'm not alone in this, that the amount of unpleasantries that I've experienced has made me a gift to the world. And it's my life is very much now, it's been of service. It's not all about me and about, it's about other as well.
Yes. And so when you really examine that, you realize your path wouldn't have been the path that it is without those experiences that you wouldn't have wanted, you wouldn't have chosen, but they have created
something quite beautiful.
Yes, exactly.
So there you go. That was really great chat, and I think hopefully this helps people out there. Michaela, anything else you'd like to say?
No, that's great. I mean, so keep chugging along.
We will, and we'll be back again. Hey. Oh, we will tell people we've got the new, we've got the eclipse coming up, so that will be a great one. Next one,
exactly, at the end of the month, 26th.
That's right. Okay, we're going to end recording now, and we'll be back in a couple of weeks with the eclipse. Catch you later.